Good afternoon, everyone. Web traffic has increased during the pandemic time, and securing data is very important and crucial. In order to discuss this in details, today my guest is a very special guest, Mr. Spencer Young, the Regional VP for Imperva. Hello, Spencer.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here.
Same here, thank you very much. Spencer, I will start with the great news which we heard recently by Gartner. So for the 7th year in a row, we have seen that Imperva WAF solution positioned in the right top of Gartner Magic Quadrant. On top of that, also this year, during 2020, you have been awarded also by SC Magazine for the best awarded database security solution. So having all of this, I have two questions to start this with, because you know it's a very big thing to have many awards during this year. So my first question, did that have any impact on Imperva's market share in the region?
Yes, absolutely, it has. I think for the first time in a long time, we now have such a breadth and depth of a platform across data and application security, and combining the two together with protecting all the paths to data. And I think having that platform's allowed us to take advantage of, so many of our customers have so many cybersecurity vendors. I mean, we have a bank that is in this region that I won't name, who has about 125 different individual cybersecurity vendors. And they have a stated aim to try and get that down to about 40 or 45. Because the overhead and the burden of working with all of those technologies is very crazy.
Absolutely.
So we've been very fortunate because we now have that platform breadth. You know, when we were growing as a company, we started with one product and we were adding products. Now, because of that breadth of the portfolio, that's helped us increase our market share significantly.
Amazing. My second question about the same thing here is, from your opinion, what distinguishes Imperva amongst the competition?
I think it's a couple of things. I think it is firstly that breadth and depth of the portfolio. When we look at the customers, the business problems they try to solve, the positive business outcomes they're looking to achieve with protecting data, securing applications, and in many cases securing their businesses if you think of their websites, depending on the type of company they are. That breadth and depth sets us apart from many other companies. The other thing I think that sets us apart is security is all we do. That's all we do. We don't have, I think it's fantastic to win the awards and the plaudits for individual products that are clearly solving big problems and are helping customers. But I think it's a focus. It's all we do. You know, we're very maniacally focused on protecting data and all the paths to it.
Absolutely. Protecting data is one of the main focus areas for Imperva.
Yeah.
Can you please inform us, during the pandemic time and the lockdown, how Imperva managed to provide the customers with a fully integrated solution related to data protection?
It was the pandemic was interesting from a business perspective. Take the human element out, obviously, but from a perspective of business, we had a tale of two halves, if you like, as far as COVID was concerned. For customers that had to move all of their infrastructure remotely overnight, their workers were working from home. They had to make increased investments in protecting the access to the data that those people were now going to be using. Customers that were born on the website, e-commerce type platforms, we actually saw a significant increase in the investments from those types of companies because so many people were working from home and they were all going online and investing in, and buying more things from those companies. So, but if you then look at traditional businesses like the major banks we work with, major telecommunications companies, what they were very focused on was simply making sure that the investments they'd already made were adding value to them. So it was very much a mix for us.
Amazing. We all know that during the pandemic time, many companies, they took decisions, and the pandemic itself has accelerated the digital transformation for most of the companies.
Yep.
And you have said that already. And we have seen that based on Forrester, that 65% of the companies, they took a decision to go to database as a service approach.
Yep.
And I know for a fact that Imperva managed to cover this area with a very impressive, comprehensive solution. Can you please elaborate here more about the database security by Imperva?
No, of course. And if we take specifically to your question around the cloud, and with these enormous business transformations that in many ways COVID helped a lot of those customers to accelerate, because for the first time the IT teams had time to breathe and think strategically once they'd got everybody working from home. Well, how do we become more efficient? How do we become more automated? How do we reduce costs depending on what environment they were in? And that has absolutely driven an enormous push towards accelerating cloud transformations. One of the hindrances of doing that customers have found was, how do I make sure I have the same security controls and the same access levels and protection in the cloud as I do have in my own data center and in my own infrastructure?
Very true.
And we're very fortunate to have an offering that covers both of those areas. So whether a customer has on-premise databases, whether they're moving to AWS or Azure or Amazon, we can protect both. And we actually launched a new solution, a cloud solution called Cloud Data Security a few months ago. And we've seen a very, very quick uptake in that business, because it's just a very simple way of securing data in those cloud environments without having to go through very laborious, long processes to do it.
Impressive. Recently we have seen that Imperva has acquired another company who's very specialized in database security, called JSonar.
Correct.
With this acquisition, what this will add to Imperva portfolio and coverage? At the same time, what, from your personal opinion, how do you see this will affect the opportunities in 2021? And do you have any prospects or opportunities under the radar for 2021 related to this area?
Okay, so a couple of questions in there. I think firstly, the JSonar acquisition was superb for us, and I think for our customers too, because it allowed us to add more breadth and depth. One of the barriers to securing, if you're a high-end enterprise customer with many thousands of databases, you're not just tied to one or two database types, right? You have many different databases. You have data warehousing, data lakes, you have cloud databases, you have on-prem databases, and you do a lot of data analytics on those things. JSonar essentially brought us two very distinct advantages that we didn't have at that point. Firstly, the ability to, out of the box, cover over 60 different database types without having to do any configuration and reconfigure things. Secondly, when you're working in enterprise environments, because of the way that the database teams manage their databases within the IT infrastructure, most data security systems have agents within them that need to be deployed on that database. And they can be difficult and challenging to deploy sometimes. So JSonar gives us an agentless approach, which means we can accelerate those deployments and show time to value for the customer much, much quicker, because there's less of a burden on that particular customer's IT team to do it. What do I see for 21 with that growth? Again, I think it now allows us to, in the same way we have such a depth portfolio in the application security space, the acquisition of JSonar absolutely gives us a lot more depth in the data security space. And I think it opens up, for our partners and our distributors like StarLink, it opens up new business opportunities that didn't exist before.
Impressive. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And it was a great pleasure having you here in StarLink Pulse. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.